What's up, Red Letter Disciple? I am Zach Zender, privileged to co-host this podcast with my good friend Chris Johnson, who will join us in a couple of minutes. But hey, this podcast, our desire, our mission really is to challenge everyday disciples to be the greatest disciples of Jesus that they can possibly be. We believe that when all of us step up into the calling to be the great disciples, and we are the great disciples of Jesus, that we show the world who Jesus really is, and that's ultimately what's going to change the world. So glad you're back with us. It's the final week in a mini series here in season 5. Season 5 is going to keep going for quite some weeks, but we've spent 4 weeks in a row talking about how to disciple Gen Z. And today's episode, it was one of the most eye-opening episodes of season 5 for sure for me. We welcome Vanessa Lane onto the podcast, and Vanessa co-founded BetterPlay Studios, an organization that seeks to create video games that have a positive impact on mental health. I know what you're thinking. Video games, positive impact on mental health? That's not what I've heard. Well, after talking with Vanessa, I wonder if the gaming industry could be just one of the biggest missed opportunities thus far for churches and disciples in general, for older generations that we've missed. And so I'm really excited to have this eye-opening conversation with Vanessa today. I guarantee you it's probably one you've never heard anywhere else. So today's episode is sponsored by Red Letter Living. We create resources that challenge all people to be greater disciples of Jesus. And we have a brand new one. It's a free one that is meant for you. What do you mean you? That's you, anybody, you. It's a free spiritual gift quiz. Every disciple of Jesus, we believe, is gifted, and it has a spiritual gift that is meant to serve the church and ultimately to serve Jesus. But do you know how you are uniquely wired to serve God and his church? That's what this free spiritual gift test will help you discover. Not long ago, I took about 5, 6, 7 tests online, spiritual gift tests, and I realized that all of these are the same. They're using the same questions. It hadn't been reinvented for a while, even though in the last 20 to 25 years, the world is drastically different. So we did our best at Red Letter to take some of what has worked in the past and some of those same questions, but also added some new things to come up with a test that will identify how are you uniquely gifted. And so you can take that free spiritual gift test. It'll take about 15 to 20 minutes at this link, spiritualgifts.me. Spiritualgifts.me. Discover how you're gifted, and come on, let's put the gift to use. So, hey, today's episode is going to be great. So one more thing before we get there. If Red Letter Disciple is a podcast that you listen to on the regular, or if it's helped you at all in your faith to be a greater disciple of Jesus, would you do us the honor of subscribing or following on whatever platform you use? And if you're already doing that, taking the extra, 90 seconds to write a quick review. And that really does mean the world. It really helps our podcast stand out in a world filled with a lot of podcasts. So without further ado, let's do this. Well, on the Red Letter Disciple today, we're going to have a good time, Chris. We're bringing Vanessa Lane onto the show today. Vanessa grew up in a household full of investors.
That's good that she grew up in a household.
Of course it is.
She wasn't out in the wild foraging for pecans or something.
Maybe she was. We don't know.
All right.
But she learned how to build businesses from a young age. She's currently residing in Michigan and the co-founder and COO of BetterPlay Studios. And this is what intrigued me. It's an organization that creates video games that deliver, listen to this, Chris, positive mental health experiences.
Huh.
So I want to talk about that because I see that in our little Gen Z mini series. I see gaming and video games such a huge part of that. And I think there might be some things we can all learn today. So Vanessa Lane, welcome to the Red Letter Disciple. How are we doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing awesome. Happy to talk to you guys.
Well, and being a parent of 2 kids, one just would play video games 24/7. The other one doesn't really care much about them. But as a parent, I feel like we're always, and you can say this, we're always watching our kids' screen time, and it's a constant battle. And put your iPads down. Stop playing Fortnite. That's what he sounds like. But not me. I have a much more pleasant parenting voice. But the point is, it'd be nice if there was actually something on the screens that was helping them with mental health and this kind of stuff, right?
And we're going to get into that.
Did I jump in too soon? Did I get
Yeah,
into
I want to just get a little of the backstory before we get right in, Chris.
All right.
Because Vanessa, right, your path didn't start in like founding a video game company. You went to school. Actually, we share the same alma mater, Concordia University, Wisconsin. Go Falcons.
Yeah.
But you were studying
lot of Falcons in Wisconsin, is there?
Exactly.
You
were studying to be a teacher, right? And spent some time teaching first. So how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I'll be totally honest. Like my faith story is super boring. I grew up in a household like you said. My dad's an entrepreneur and an investor, wealth management. He's sold a few companies, and to this day we continue to collaborate. In the business world, and that's been immensely helpful. And also, it's just he's honestly one of my best friends, and so I really enjoy working with my dad. And man, I almost got a little misty saying that. But my mom's a teacher, and I grew up with my parents being really great examples of just like how to live the Christian life. So my dad being in the secular world, my mom teaching at the Lutheran school I attended, and they were just great at it, and they're just really generous people. So I think I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that, because it was just like a very pleasant upbringing. And I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We were always in the community. My mom taught at a kind of a school on the south side of Milwaukee that it's kind of a tougher crowd, and learned a lot that way. And my dad was always involved in like the art community and stuff like that. So I saw like secular culture and like the Christian culture too. So then I thought my whole life I really thought God was calling me to be a missionary, and that from the time I was like a small child even into my time at Concordia, I really thought that's where I was going to go. And then did some overseas mission trips, some longer term ones, taught English in China for a little bit, in Macau and Hong Kong for a class with Dr. Feiertag, of course. And really at that time, I was dating my now husband, and we both were like, we really feel this call to stay in the States. Like, he was going to be a church planter, and I was like, yeah, I really just feel, like incarnational ministry is something I'm passionate about to this day. It's like the most important thing I could do. So I ended up becoming a teacher, and I taught middle school like my mom for 6 years. Loved it. Loved every second of it. 8th grade is like my sweet spot. Like
really?
Oh, like the tomfoolery. Yeah, the tomfoolery, like the just nonsense, like the nonsense that they come to school with, I'm here for. I love that they have like 1 foot in childhood, 1 foot in adulthood. And I really think if a kid is like kind of going down a bad path or like just needs extra support, it's it kind of feels early enough to steer them right. And it's a really pivotal time for a lot of kids as they're experiencing a lot of change and just trying to help them make sense of the world, before them. So that's like a little bit about my background. Another important thing I would say is my husband's a pastor, and I usually don't lead with that unless I'm talking to other Christians, because like, no offense guys, but when I lived in Seattle, like no one's a Christian there. I mean, that's not entirely true, but the crowds I was hanging out with, like I would be the only Christian, and then I would be like, oh yeah, my husband's a pastor, and then you could hear people getting uptight, and
then I never got invited back to another dinner party.
Right.
Right, exactly. Or like they stop swearing around you. Which, that's like just be yourself, Yeah. So I try. Usually I don't lead with that, but I really do feel like a partner in my husband's ministry, and right now, well, I should say he went to seminary in St. Louis, and Bethlehem Lutheran Church in Denver, Colorado is where he did his vicarage. I taught there. And then, I was serving schools in St. Louis and then Seattle for about 5 years. And then now here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where we serve University of Michigan students. And I got to say, I love it. Like they're a little wild, but it's a good time. And, really smart group of people. And, my church now, it's like you can't leave the church pew without like, I'll bump into 5 engineers like on my way, just like to the narthex. I mean, it's like a really different kind of congregational makeup, and it's been really cool. So
that's cool. And there's good vibes at Michigan. When we're recording, it's preseason. When this airs, it'll be a few games into it. But they're ranked number 1 going into the
Michigan. Michigan's not ranked number 1. Michigan's
they're I don't know where they're at right now, but I know that they've got some.
No, they're not number 1, but they are in the top 5. Zachary.
Anyway, so good vibes in Michigan. And by the way, this just proves like all of us are wired differently, because like you love eighth grade ministry and like that middle school ministry. And I've tried many things as pastor in ministry. And I think the hardest season I had was when they had me lead confirmation at Holy Cross for 2 years.
For 2 weeks. And then we got them right out of it.
I just get too angry.
Well, it does. Yeah. I will say this. Right now, so I've been in youth ministry for like 20 years. And for the last few years, I've been teaching theology at our high school. And I really love like freshmen through seniors. And then I get an 8th grade or a 6th grade class. And I feel like I'm just doing like discipline the whole time. And like, well, I can't do this. Maybe it's because I'm 50 and I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's like that. It's like that. But I mean, I have to be honest, like I did burn out. So like, that's why we're here, right? Like I burned out and changed careers. So like, I don't want to be like the,
I love it so much. I'm not doing it anymore.
Right. It's like, I love it. But, truth be told, if I'm being totally honest, and this is hard to say, but like the combination of like the teacher pastor thing, I'm a type A personality. My husband is also like career driven, not as type A as I am. And we're great partners and really great. Honestly, we have a great marital friendship, but it was a lot for us. And I just completely like burned out and then just needed a change. And so then I ended up, when Marcus took the call here to Ann Arbor, that's when I started my master's in computer science. So I actually just graduated with a master's degree it's like an applied computer science degree, computer information systems from Boston University. Yeah. So like, honestly, it was really tough. Like they grade really hard. Like look it up. They grade harder than Harvard. You heard it here. Like it was tough. Yeah. So, made it through that. And I really felt like I needed that just to prove that I could use the other side of my brain. I felt like it was a lot of, in the moment type of work as a teacher. And I needed to know that I could think strategically, and then also, kind of like that scope and sequence, like, can I see the big picture and then can I carry it out as well? And I think that that computer science training and especially with like IT strategy, that was really helpful.
Cool. Yeah. Computer science, IT, other things that, my brain's just not wired the same, but I love that. So no matter what our passion for the younger generation comes from, like there's a need for all of us to get in this game. And no pun intended.
Whoa, what a segue!
Right? So, but and that's what's interesting is what you're doing now is and so you got the degree, but then you co-founded this new company called BetterPlay Studios. And so, talk to me about BetterPlay Studios and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so BetterPlay Studios came about. Well, my co-founder and I, we both independently, just struggled during the pandemic, like most of us did, and both kind of turned to gaming as a way to feel a little bit more human. I certainly grew up playing video games, Nintendo 64, Game Boy, really into Pokemon, like loved it, and then during the pandemic, we both kind of recognized that gaming was a part of us, kind of feeling more human again, and just like kind of. It helped. It was part of like a mental health routine. Like I will not say that gaming is like the only thing you need, but much like people exercise or have a healthy diet, like playing games is fun, and it's important to take time to play and to have fun, and that really helped us. And so both my co-founder and I have worked together for about 6 years in 2 different jobs. We actually worked at Concordia University together, and then we both we have the same daytime employer. So we, with our daytime employer, had the opportunity to work with the Milwaukee Bucks esports team. And I'm from Milwaukee, so like I love the Bucks. This was like an incredible opportunity. And long story short, we worked with them to create a psychometric app that helped them manage their stress and their emotions during their finals run. And they made dude, it ruled. Okay, and let me tell you this, it made like, you guys might not know this, but like in the gaming world, like it's been called the greatest esports turnaround in history. Like they won the championship, and that was like life-changing money for.
Did you get a ring then? You should have got a ring.
I did not get a ring. Actually, we should have thought. You're right. Yeah. I feel like that was a missed opportunity.
Hold on. Hey,
did you get dinner with the Greek freak at least, Giannis?
Well, this is the esports team, so it's not quite the same. But we did get to interact. We did get to interact with the people on the esports team. It happens to be all guys, and then we know their GM pretty well. But that's for our day job. And my co-founder Michael and I, we were both like, hey, we don't really want to be making apps. Like that's great for work, like our day job, but we want to create something on our own that is more gaming focused. And so we decided to do something different where we just said, hey, we're going to create video games with the help of leading psychologists that have a positive impact on mental health, that people can play and feel good about themselves and feel and make actual progress. And we refuse to sacrifice any of the fun. Like, these games have to be fun. So, that is like a non-negotiable. So that's
I saw on your website, it said no edutainment here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
You know why? And I'll tell you why, because like, again, I taught 8th grade. So like, I know that kids who respect their teachers will play the game if the teacher puts it in front of them and like they have a good relationship, but they're not bringing the game home. No. It's like, okay, let's go to the games where the people actually are, and let's make these like really good, right? Because we're Christians, we believe that we are a reflection of our Creator, and when we make good things, like good art, good games, whatever, like that's a reflection of God's love for us, and I think we should want that. Like, we should want whether you're an engineer or a plumber or a teacher or whatever it is you do, like you should want to do good work, because we are God's workmanship, right? Well, because literally in the scriptures.
For so long, like Christian movies, Christian games, they were always second class, whether it came to like the graphics or, and then I guess like then it kind of like Mel Gibson comes in and makes Passion of the Christ, and it's like, whoa, there's a well-produced Christian product out there.
It's possible.
And then Red Letter comes out, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Chris.
Minds were blown.
That would be one of the nicest things you've said to me about me.
Thank you.
Stuff. Anyway.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, and yeah, go ahead.
No, I think that your story is fascinating, and I'm really intrigued by. Because again, as a parent, like Chris mentioned earlier, I'd say one of our deepest struggles as parents is knowing what to do with screens and digital devices. And it's taxing, it's confusing, it's wearing, it's nonstop.
It's another nonstop job that you have as a parent.
And I think we're, as a older millennial, like we're still figuring out like life with these things at the same time. And so we're the first generation of parents that actually have kids with devices. And so it's just so much perceived as a negative. And I'm not saying there's not some negative things on these. So that's where I want to, maybe talk
very rarely does a parent say, why don't you just go back on your phone?
Games.
Go play some video games, buddy.
So what's your response to that? Or how can parents, because obviously everything I've ever heard or listened to anyone else is like limitations, moderation. Yeah. But so what does that look like? Are you saying no limits, no moderation, go for it? It's good.
Yeah. That's funny that you'd say that. So just personally, I don't like social media. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, I use it because I have to in some ways, like for my job, but I'm not high on social media. And then I'll just be honest, my kids don't use tablets. So I also don't like smartphones. Like, if I could go back to a dumb phone, I totally would. And I'm actually like thinking about like how I could do that. So I do think it's important to remember, like, not all tech is created equal. So I do think being aware of that, and then also within your own family system, it's like, coming up with what works as a family and really being open with those conversations. So I don't know that I have like any like hard science to support this, but in my family, for example, I tend to not let my kids play the Switch like on the console itself. Like, I want them to play on the TV, so it's like a shared experience. Like, I really that's something that we've decided as a family is good for us. And then just knowing what's out there. So before the show, we were talking, or you sent me a question about what's changed in video games.
So much, right?
So much since either of you. Did either of you play video games from?
Oh yeah.
And when I grew up, it was Nintendo 64 and PlayStation and Madden. James Bond, I think, was the first.
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye. The game rules.
GoldenEye was so good.
So that's what I grew up with. We probably have a ton of listeners that haven't played a video game since then. And so update us on what they're like now.
And not to age myself, but my first system was the Atari 2600, complete with combat. What's up?
You can actually buy that again. Did you know that? It just went up for sale again, which is crazy.
Really?
But I mean, so
I know.
Sorry, did that make you feel old? I'm sorry.
Basketball, and it was a square basketball, and you.
That's great. Oh my gosh. Well, so I think it's just making sure whatever your kids are playing, it's making sure that you know it and like you understand it, and that you don't have to be like helicopter parenting them, but that you're conversant about what they're doing, especially with things like Fortnite. Like, I actually really like Fortnite, and I like to watch streamers who play Fortnite. I personally don't play it very much though. I just really like the streamer experience. But that's probably because I'm so young. Just kidding, I'm not. But just these college students, they're having an impact. But I think like the tech has greatly improved. So just being aware, like the art style. So I think this is actually a really good thing, but like games are beautiful. So if y'all played Ocarina of Time, like The Legend of Zelda on the N64, that game has been called the greatest game of all time. But, there's a new Zelda game that just came out, Tears of the Kingdom. And when I say that the intro scene brought me to tears, I'm not even lying, because the art is so beautiful. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but like the art is so beautiful, and it's like got this like borderline Christological, plot narrative. And it's like, these are things you can engage in as a family. And like my daughter could pick out the plot line of like Ori and the Will of the Wisps, another beautiful game that is very Christological. And oh man, it just gets you right in the feels. And so that's like a positive thing, I guess. And then knowing all about like what's called like an MMORPG, which is a massive multiplayer online role-playing game. And that means you can play online with like a ton of different people and you're role playing. And so popular examples would include like World of Warcraft, the Star Wars games, Final Fantasy. Obviously mobile gaming has come a long way. And then just like the social aspect of gaming, like Roblox, I think has like 70 million daily users.
My son loves that game. He plays it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So is he social when he plays?
So he's kind of an introvert, so sometimes he turns off the social stuff and he just kind of but he plays that. And he's got, for Christmas last year, all he wanted was, he's into cars, so all he wanted was like the $200 steering wheel so he could play Forza. And so
awesome.
I got it for him, and then I tried to drive it and I kept piling it into the road.
Great, but you tried. I mean, that's so important, right?
I did, yeah. But no, you're right. Like, it's really come a long way.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like, so many of my like juniors and seniors in the school, like they come to school and that's like what they're talking about. Hey, we just 1v1, 2v2, something. I'm like, what are you talking about? But that it would be so great. And I love this idea of kind of taking something and then flipping it around and saying, whoa, this is something that could actually help with your mental health. This is something that could actually, we wouldn't have to patrol as parents as much.
Yeah. So how does it help with your mental health? I think I've heard you say a few things of like, we can appreciate the beauty and we can appreciate the art. There's certainly a social aspect that if you're on a remote or headset, like that's good that you're being social. And so I can see those things potentially. Are there other aspects what is it? How can it positively affect mental health?
Yeah, I mean, so just to be honest, like there is a lot of like gaming research is new. It's like 15 to 20 years old. I mean, there's some gaming research that goes back to the 70s, but games like we understand, today, the research is a little bit it's a little too early to like really tell exactly, but there is really good emerging research out there. So one thing I would say is that gaming could be part of a healthy routine in order to keep like the whole you healthy. So like I had mentioned before, you exercise, you eat a healthy diet, you stay active, you read, you play video games. It's a part of it. It's like training your brain. It's like learning a new skill. One of my professor colleagues taught herself how to play Xbox as a way to combat Alzheimer's and dementia because she wanted to learn a new skill, and she was in her almost 70s at the time.
Wow.
So I think that's something to think about.
She just beat me on Fortnite last night, by the way.
Yeah, probably, right?
We could trigger finger that lady.
Incredible. Oh man. So I think that's one way to look at it, and then the connectedness and relaxation is pretty important. So at BetterPlay, we work with a team of psychologists who use gaming in their respective practices. So they're actual mental health professionals that they are saying gaming holds over my patients while they're waiting to be seen. Like it is a way to de-stress while they can't be seen immediately when they're in crisis. It's a way to like kind of mellow out. And I think too, like one of my favorite researchers works for this organization called Take This, and what they do is they focus especially on gaming and mental health. And they're the only organization that I found that does that. And so Rachel Cowart is her name. And so she said that, games satisfy our basic psychological needs. We need competency, we need autonomy, and we need connectedness. And so if you think about like the COVID-19 pandemic, when we were all locked down, gaming was a way that a lot of people stayed healthy, Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley. I mean, it kept people social, it kept them connected. And that's how people saw their friends. And so, I think that, video games are hiding in plain sight as something that could be really good for people.
It's cool. How big explain how big the video game industry is. And maybe if you can break down anything generationally or age, gender, that would be good to hear.
And are you looking to knock out EA?
No,
you're not looking to
EA Sports.
It's in the game.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what unlike that's like a loop in my brain from my childhood. But it's been a minute. No, actually, I actually heard the former CEO of EA talk here in Michigan at an event, and just like what that organization has done is impressive. There's also some like impressively bad things they've done too. So I don't want to just paint with just only show the positive side. But okay, so how big is the video game industry? So here, I'll kind of frame it in a couple different ways. So money-wise, about $300 billion by 2027. Some people say it's pushing that right now, but that's, give or take. And then there's about 120 million monthly gamers worldwide. So that's people who are like using like subscription models, or like they're very actively gaming every single month. So massive. And then here, put this in perspective, because you guys might seem like football fans. Is that true? Mm-hmm. You like football? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So 2019 League of Legends tournament, the championship, more people watched that than the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So, but we can't see it. It's invisible to us, right? So like that statistic blows minds. When we we're in the middle of a capital raise right now. We're raising our seed money. And when we share that statistic with people, they're always like, wait, what? Like because people don't get it, right? Because you can't see the people in the seats, right? It's a different experience.
That's crazy because everybody I know has watched the Super Bowl, but I don't know of anybody that I know, because I'm 50 years old, that has said, you got to go watch that League of Legends final. That's insane. That's mind blowing.
Yeah, and I think it's global. So I think there's that aspect.
Also, I don't know why I use that voice. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It sounded really natural.
Yeah, I know. It's like my video game manly voice. I don't know why I use that.
Oh my God, you're killing me. But even to like put it in perspective this way, I'm a huge NBA fan. Like my husband and I love the NBA. I'm a Bucks fan. He's a Timberwolves fan. And one way to look at it is like the NBA. There's a lot of culture there. Like they tend to trend set in the NBA fashion wise. NBA players can date a Kardashian, like that says something, right? So when on the Minnesota Timberwolves, I believe it was like Naz Reid joined them, Anthony Edwards, like first question he asks is, do you play Call of Duty? So it's like, that's prolific. Like that is like we're in the NBA, like everyone's doing this. It's huge in, among pro sports teams. And then also senior citizens game, like a ton, like a lot more than you probably think. Like it would be reasonable, excuse me, I just like hit my mic because I'm so passionate. It would be reasonable for either of you on a shut-in visit to go ask the people you're visiting, like, what games have you played? Because that's how many people are gaming. So it's grown about 38% since 2018. Wow. And, at first I was like, no way, no chance. Like I'm picturing like my grandparents. And then I remembered like, oh yeah, my grandpa was a PC gamer. He was doing like the Microsoft, like those pilot simulator games. And like, they love like solitaire and like, those mobile apps, Candy Crush, like they love that stuff. So, senior citizens, man, they're here for it.
That's cool. And with all that, I believe, so we have senior citizens, but, and we have people of all ages, but like, amongst younger generation, like those numbers are crazy high, right? That are gaming.
Oh yeah, I think it's got to be like 2/3 at this point, gaming, and then roughly of Gen Z, half are women. So I think there's this stigma.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Is it and I would imagine, first off, like there's probably, and maybe I'm ignorant and I'm wrong. You tell me I am. I would imagine there's not too many females doing your work, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. And then I would also think that in gaming, I would think it's mostly a male hobby.
I'll
but
take
it's
that
not.
one. You're wrong, and you're wrong. Go ahead.
I probably am.
No, honestly, you know, and I can only go from my own experience. I feel like on the like games for good kind of angle, because you know, we're technically not like a Christian company. It just so happens that my co-founder and I are both Christians, and we really want to, you know, we want our faith to impact everything we do, right? So we are a Christian company in that way. But in our space, where it's like we're kind of like in the humanitarian, well, I should say it more like the humanistic side of gaming. Is it probably a better way to say it? Because there are humanitarian games and those are different. We're more games for good is like how I would frame it. There are a lot of women, more than you might expect. Yeah. But I will say it is definitely a male dominated industry still. And then you know, we can talk more about this later if you want, but that's something that folks in the gaming industry experience is like there is like a lot of toxic behavior toward women and marginalized people. So that's still something that does have a negative impact on mental health and such.
What do you think the church's response has been to the video game industry?
Apparently, you've never seen Bible Man. Wasn't that a video game or that is a movie?
I think I heard about this actually.
Yeah, that was really cheesy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fascinating. Yeah. So here's the thing. I want to answer it, and then I want you guys to answer it. Okay.
Great.
So what I think is the church has been largely silent, and maybe at best has like kind of taken the same perspective as the church has on social media. You know, I saw a lot of like I was a small child during the Columbine you know, shooting, and I think, you know, we heard about these guys, they played their violent video games and they listened to music, and I think people, you know, really look for something to blame when there's crisis. So I think that the church at large is probably guilty of that, and then also just being silent. I think that a lot of people are afraid that they're going to look immature if they admit that they play games. Like there's already a lot of guys are probably ashamed that they play because they're like, I'm going to be labeled like a deadbeat dad if I say that I play a video game. A lot of women either don't like, maybe they're just not comfortable saying it, or maybe they're just like okay with it, but it's not like the first thing they tell people. I don't know. I mean, so I think the church could probably you know, engage the conversation a little bit more and almost treat it like music, or almost treat it like other media. It's like, hey, like let's appreciate good art and like good technology here, and this, it doesn't have to be like, you know, Jesus songs all the time when you're talking about music, or it doesn't have to be like, you know, Martin Luther's Quest. That's like a real game. You know, there's like, you can follow Martin Luther through his journey. I can't remember the name of it exactly. It doesn't have to be that.
Right.
But, you know, we can make really good things.
Well, to answer it, as somebody who's been in youth ministry for 20 years, one of my most popular things that we do at Youth Night, that we have 2 Xboxes, right? Yeah. And we would play hockey, and we would, all of a sudden somehow we could get like 6 people playing, and it was always filled. And of course you kind of like I didn't let them download Call of Duty, you know,
right.
Like that. But it was one of those things where like the shy kids and the popular kids would all sit down at the same place. And that was kind of this, I don't know, it was almost like a melting pot so much, because like most kids game. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you're the coolest kid or the nerdiest kid, they're all playing. And it's one thing that I could get them all to sit down and like talk together, you know? So for me, it was great. I mean, I had other youth directors, like they treated it like I had a Ouija board in there or something.
Right, I know.
You know, but I'm like, dude, it's okay. Like they're doing this at home. Let's just monitor it, and it can be really great. Yeah.
I would answer it. Yeah. I think non-existent in most cases. And when it has been or is talked about, it's negative for sure. I'm thinking of like the pastors that will preach and make fun of the 28-year-old living in your parents' basement playing your video game sort of mentality. That
sounds amazing.
Yeah, my parents
that's sort of language. It's non-existent, but when it does come up, it's that sort of language of shaming and I, maybe I've said something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You have.
10, 15 years. Like I don't know. Maybe I have. And again, so it's
You've said a lot of stuff.
But I see. But what I'm thinking in all of this is like, gosh, this feels like a major missed opportunity overall for the church,
agreed.
For pastors, and then again, I don't want to just make this everybody else's. Like, I have 2 sons, and my older son doesn't really video game much. My younger son loves it, and so like,
although we did have a compelling game of Jackbox at the Zenders last night.
Actually,
you ever play Jackbox?
Love a good Jackbox party.
So
Love it.
Playing TKO, the T-shirt game where you draw. That's so good.
Yes,
so good. So good.
Right.
And that's a good example, I think, of entering in. But there's other times when like my younger son Brady will play Fortnite, and it's like, nope, you have this limited time, even though you're playing with your buddies and playing with your friends. It's your thing. It's on your own device. And like, I haven't entered in as a parent of maybe I should play Fortnite with
just
Brady.
Give it a shot.
Maybe that'd be a bonding moment. But I'm just thinking like missed opportunities. Are we missing? Is the video game industry a major missed opportunity for the church and for Christians, especially with Gen Z, but probably even more than that? Is that how you see it? And maybe talk to us about what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm thinking right away, like I agree with everything you said. And, my husband was just telling me he has a barber he's been seeing since we moved here. And his barber's nephew, was at his last haircut. And he ended up talking to the nephew about 14 years old, talked to him like the entire haircut about video games. And, the kid, came and found him after the haircut and was like, hey, thanks for talking to me. That was really cool. I didn't know you gamed, and it was awesome to have that in common. And they just really, they really hit it off. And so I absolutely
I heard that he tapped him up too after that.
Well, he did. Yeah, he dapped him up. It was great. Like it was a moment.
Crazy.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah. It was a great moment, but I think it goes beyond that too. I mean, I think, I think, we can, as far as like discipleship goes, I mean, it's a huge opportunity for people to just have like real connections. And, something that one of my husband's seminary professors, Dr. Herman, would always say is, toys are tools for playing with people. And that's absolutely true with video games. It's like, these are tools for you to engage with other people. And yes, of course, it's okay to play, a video game by yourself, decompress, make sure you're thinking about how you use it. But it's absolutely something that you can connect with others on. And, even just in some of our research, like we were recently accepted into a National Science Foundation program that helped us do rapid market research. And so we talked to about 40 mental health professionals, all who are very pro gaming and say, absolutely, we use gaming in our practice. And often for some folks who are really young people really struggling with, a mental health challenge, gaming is a way to de-escalate. So if something's going on, like it really just like helps you like settle down and, kind of like the mask comes off. You can be yourself. You're kind of next to each other. You're engaged in something together. It can be really special.
So why, you just mentioned, you talked to 40 mental health experts that are all pro gaming. Why do we never hear the positive stuff?
That's a really good point.
There's clearly lots of research and study out there. And obviously you guys founded a company that is going to be promoting the positive, but why do we never hear it?
I think there's like a political aspect to it. And I think, just in the broadest sense of the word, I think anytime you hear like a really extreme headline, like even if it's a good thing, like video games are the best thing to happen to your kid, or video games are the worst thing to happen to your kid, there's probably an agenda there. And I think, it is really hard to discern good news, like what's like valid. And so I don't know why we don't always hear it. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with it's boring. Like it's not a good story. People will have nothing to blame. Like, honestly, like there is moral panic. Like I think there's people clutching their pearls. Like I think people are afraid to say my son's depressed. Honestly, I think people are, like, my daughter has anxiety. She might have OCD, like people are afraid of that. And one thing that one of the psychologists that we talked to shared is that, gaming addiction is not actually recognized on the DSM-5. Like, so really you shouldn't be using that term. I mean, I'm not a mental health professional, but I'm really uncomfortable. What's
the DSM-5 for those that aren't familiar, which might include?
So that's like the standard list of mental health conditions, okay. and that's probably like all I should say, because it's really not my area, and I want to be clear about that. We work with experts, but it's where diseases and mental health issues are identified, right? So video game addiction, quote unquote, does not meet the criteria for addiction at this point. And a lot of researchers agree with that. And so I think one thing that a psychologist we talked to pointed out was that if you think, someone in your family has video gaming addiction and you treat the underlying mental health issues, usually their gaming returns to a normal level for that family system. So I think a lot of folks, like, it's easier to blame video games for big problems, mental health issues, mass shootings. I mean, I'm not trying to go dark on us, but it's easier. Like, oh, just blame the video games, blame social media, blame TikTok, whatever. We have to recognize
to the root issues, right? Yeah,
exactly.
So how do you know? Okay, so this is kind of mind-boggling to me, and opening my mind to this whole positive side of video games and thinking about it in that way. How do you know when it crosses the line from positive to negative? Because there's clearly got to be some negative stuff out there because we hear about it all the time. Okay. And clearly there are games that, when you look at the premise and what the images and video may be beautiful, but it's not good art to look at or appropriate art to look at. And so how do you know when the line is crossed from this could be a positive gaming experience to know this is something you got to be careful of and probably even negative?
Thanks, Zach. I'll take this. So when your kid is hiding behind a tree, dressed in a Fortnite costume with a paintball gun and splatters you on the way to work, I'd say that's unhealthy.
So has that happened to you recently?
3 times. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, just you wear the wounds, I mean, I just feel like, I
didn't think that would come up, but yeah.
Right.
So thank you.
But how do you know when it changes from this is and could be a positive experience to this is probably more on the negative side? What are some things to look out for? Because what I don't want to do, and I think you're probably right with it, or I think you'd probably agree, is I don't want to just someone to listen to this and been cool, no holds barred, video games are great, have at it, kids. Because I think there's probably something still there to limitation. So walk me through that.
Yeah. So I think overall, again, the research is still emerging, over a lot of the stuff. So I think there is good open science that suggests that video games can make you make better behavioral choices, but there's actually no research supporting them that video games may help you make worse choices. So that's a positive thing. But to answer your question, I would say make sure you're having these conversations in the open as a family. So how do we feel about gaming? How do we want to handle this as a family? How do we make these decisions? And then I would say as well, make sure, like I said, I think I said this twice before, but it's are you active? It's some of the common sense things of do you have a healthy lifestyle? And then is gaming infringing on that? So because if you're sitting a lot, or if you're not being social in gaming and you're not being social, you're not going to the park and playing with your friends and you're not connecting at school, maybe it's time to talk to someone about that and get some help. And then also there is research that supports some of the negative sides of gaming that involve just toxic behavior. How as a family, how do we want to handle it when someone uses a racial slur? What are we going to do about that? Are we going to stand by and let it happen? What if it's directed at, my child? How are we going to handle that? What about sexism in video games? Anti-Semitism is a huge problem. So even, no matter how you feel about the LGBTQ community, it's they do endure a lot of pain and suffering in these social environments. So it's how do we as Christians want to navigate that? And I think it's having those conversations as a family and making sure that that your child is aware of what could happen. My daughter, she's 7. She asked me when she could start playing Fortnite, and I was just pretty honest with her. I was I don't think you're ready for that yet. I think I'm not really ready. And I know she could play in a more closed off environment, but I just don't think we're ready for the social aspects of gaming. And I think that's where a lot of the negativity comes and a lot of the issues happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because when you invite, the world, you don't know who's on the other side of that. Right. So setting boundaries and
could be Zach. In fairness,
maybe we never know. Yeah. Oh, man, this has been mind opening for me. So tell me what you're doing at BetterPlay Studios. Do you guys have? Do you have video games already? Are you creating them? What are they going to be like?
Yeah, so we're actually a very young company. We started in December of 2022, and we've moved really, really fast. So we actually we have it's called a playable prototype. It's not truly a demo. Like a demo is like what's called a vertical slice, where you get to see a little of everything with a game. We just have a playable prototype that we're using to raise money with investors. So we are kind of doing the venture capital VC angel investor route right now, and we're seeking our seed capital. So our hope is to be funded in fall or early winter, and then at that point we would like to expand. We would like to grow the company. So we'd begin work finishing our first game, which is called The Outdwellers. Check it out on our website. It's beautiful. Like the art is incredible, and it's just a really awesome game. And then we spent the last couple of weeks researching our secondary opportunities through that National Science Foundation program. And so we're hoping to have a more collaborative relationship with folks in the mental health space, and to just get our games in front of more people.
It's cool. This has been so interesting. And I think I'm walking away from this episode like, man, this is such a major missed opportunity up to this point.
Oh, totally.
But it's still an opportunity because it's not gone away.
Yeah, it's halftime.
Yeah,
it's not the end of the game.
It's not the end. So this is major opportunity for anyone listening out there in church and ministry, even parents, I think, of entering into our kids' hobbies and interests a little bit more, to be with them and spending time with them. And so thanks for shifting that paradigm for me. We ask all of our guests this question kind of towards the end here, is if you could challenge our listeners to do one thing practically this week to be a greater disciple of Jesus, what would you challenge them
Play
to do?
12 hours of Fortnite this weekend with your kid.
Took the words right out of my mouth. No, I mean, honestly,
we are a venture capitalists. So fun the whole thing.
Right? Yeah, it's like that. Right?
Those are two other challenges. What else?
The underbelly of America. I'm kidding. No, it's been wild. I'll tell you that much. So I would, I'd probably come back to what I said earlier about toys or tools for playing with people. So if you don't game, I would suggest try a game, whether it's on the Switch or the Xbox, or I'm not high on mobile, but if that's what you got, like try something on mobile, try something different, and use it as a way to connect with someone in your life, like maybe your kids, your grandkids, neighbor kids. Remember, the average gamer is 35, so there's a lot of people you can connect with. If you do game, get out of your comfort zone. Try a tabletop game. And we didn't talk about tabletop games, but try a board game. Try something different, or like Dungeons and Dragons. Take your kids or your grandkids to an old school arcade, school them on Donkey Kong, just try something different and use it as a way to connect with people. And it's a way that you can kind of start, having more meaningful conversations. You connect on their level, and just get out of your comfort zone.
I love it.
In my school office, I have a pretty big office, and I have a retro video game cabinet with 400 games. And so at lunch, like, kids will come have lunch with me and play Donkey Kong. And they're like, how'd you get to level 7? I'm like, because that's what we did back in the day.
All right, Red Letter Disciples, if you take that challenge on, hashtag Red Letter Disciple, and let us know what video game or what other game you're playing. We want to support and cheer you on, and think that's really cool that you're taking that challenge on to again, build a bridge and relationship and empathy. I think that's why I wanted to have this specific segment in our Gen Z sort of mini series, because so many of them are doing it. And rather than just negative, let's find out all the information out there and actually enter in and see that maybe there's some good in some of this too. And so that was awesome. So Chris, what you got for Vanessa?
So Vanessa Lane of BetterPlayStudios.com, trying to make a better video game for the world. I know we have a lot of listeners. Go to BetterPlayStudios.com and, become a venture capitalist, number one. But here's the game that I have for you. You've educated us so much on video games today, and I think Zach's going to be a little bit more gentle when it comes to screen time with his kids. But
I don't know.
I feel like you're on the ground floor of something great. Like when those initial people got together with the DeVos family and heard about Amway, and they were on the opening. All right. So I want to be on the ground level with you at BetterPlayStudios.com.
You're always seeking opportunity for game through this podcast for your personal.
All right. This is what I want to do. I'm going to pitch to you, just to you.
Okay.
3 of these games that I've been working on in development. Now, I know you're not per se a Christian company, but wouldn't you agree that we need to up the quality of Christian products?
Yes,
Wouldn't
no doubt.
you agree? Like, if you gave a kid a Christian video game and said, this is a Christian video game, they're going to turn their nose up at you, right? So here are 3 games. I need you to pick the best one. And then maybe, just maybe, we after this podcast, we make out some kind of deal. Okay, here we go. First game, Vanessa. It's called Den of Thieves. Now, I know you said you are not a mobile fan, but I'm picturing this as a 99-cent iOS game. Okay, let me break it down.
Okay.
It's based on the verse. Then Jesus went into the temple of God and drove out all those who bought and sold in the temple. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he said, and it's written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you've made it a den of thieves. And maybe that is dramatically done at the beginning, right? I can just see a Star Wars deep voice. And then all of a sudden you see hands and you're weaving together a whip because you're Jesus. And then it's a time game, Vanessa. It's a time game. You first have to weave the whip, and then you run to the temple, you overturn the tables, and you scare the money changers away. But here's the thing. Over all the money changers, there's a bar, and it says fear. And the more you whip and turn tables, the more the bar fills up, right? And then you have to free the animals, and then you bless the remaining crowd. Quickest time wins. That's just number 1, okay?
Oh my.
Oh, I got 2 more. This one's quicker. This one's called Survivor. Not like the TV show, and I hope they don't sue me because it's nothing to do with that. Let me tell. So picture this. You're the firstborn male in your family, and the plague's just hit. You know what that means, guys. Can you survive, Zach? Water turning into blood, the frogs, the dreaded lice, the menacing boils, the death of your livestock, the annoying locusts. They're so annoying, Zach. And then complete darkness, and of course, the final one, killing of the firstborn child. Your heart will race as you attempt to save your own life. Okay, that's number 2. Final one.
Wow. Okay.
This one's called, it's a little bit funnier, okay? Those were pretty intense. Okay. This one's called Belly Up. It's Belly Up. All right? It's not about drinking. During his sea journey, a great storm appears, and Jonah's thrown overboard and swallowed by a huge whale. You've heard it. So then that's when the real action happens. You're in the belly of the whale.
Oh my gosh.
And you've got to collect that. You're going around, you're getting fish, you're trying to eat, you're trying to stay alive. So you got a bar that's like starvation, water, excitement. You're trying to keep those bars up like the Sim, like the Sims.
Well, love the Sims.
Yeah, it's like the Sims. And then, you're in there for 3 days, and then you finally have to figure out how to ask God for forgiveness. And then you got to go begrudgingly complete your mission in Nineveh. But that's just kind of afterthoughts.
Side quest. Okay.
Thank you. Side quest. Yeah. So which one do you think, I don't know, which one do you think BetterPlay Studios wants to partner on with me?
Okay, so what really hit me that you really have a good understanding of, and I'm going to give a shout out to our executive advisor, Bob Welch. He invented the Bop It and worked on the Civilization games.
Are you serious?
Dude, it's on the website. Go check it out.
That's incredible. We played that. Yeah. We played that. Bop It. Slap.
Yeah, he invented that. He's advising us. So we know a thing or two through him. We know a thing or two about entertainment.
Wow.
One thing that you just nailed was having that bar on top of you, just you have to. Yeah, you have to you have to be tracking that people that keeps it fun, and then also the levels like the Sims, you have to be able to track what you're doing. We have a mechanism like that in our game. So I'd probably, that last one though, Belly Up was pretty fun. That has some viral game capacity. I think you might struggle a little bit with user acquisition, but I'm here.
I don't know what that means.
Someday, I think too, you really get the body language, you're really ready for a VC pitch.
That's what I'm saying. I could go on Shark Tank right now with Belly Up. Say Shark Tank Belly Up.
Yeah. I think the art would be beautiful, a beautiful art style. Yeah.
So which one do you want? Belly Up?
I think I got to go Belly Up on that one.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk
this
after.
This whole conversation, I think, just went belly up. I'm not going to lie to you. But...
All right.
In the best way possible.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope so. We'll see. But hey, Vanessa.
But I thought it was funny when I said, uh-oh.
It was good. No, it was good.
Kid. Uh-oh, plague's just hit.
There's a voice actor out there that's going to be like, I got my job. Like, this is
Actually,
it.
I need to talk to you about that. In your first video game that you make, I have a pretty compelling voice, and I'll do it really cheap. So,
I mean, yeah, I've heard it. It's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Super humble.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Vanessa, this has been a really fun conversation, and again, eye-opening for us. So, and for all everybody that listens. So, hey, if people want to connect with you, what you're doing at BetterPlay Studios, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn, and then you can honestly just send me an email, lane@betterplaystudios.com, or fill out our form on our website. We'd love to. We talk to everybody. We'd love to connect with you.
Cool.
Awesome.
Very good, Vanessa. Well, thank you so much for stopping by the Red Letter Disciple. I got to go because I got to go play some video games.
Hey-o.
Well, I told you this conversation would be eye-opening. I had it a couple of months ago with Vanessa, even though you just heard it today. I had it, like I said, a couple of months ago, and I've been since this more involved with my kids as they've been playing their video games, more intentional. And so thank you, Vanessa, for sharing an important conversation and reminding me of the opportunity and potential that I have to even disciple my own kids in my own home through this. So, hey, if you want to connect with Vanessa, if you want to see what's happening with BetterPlay Studios, or again, take that free spiritual gift test that I mentioned on the front side, or just get the highlights and the links from today's show, you can check them all out at redletterpodcast.com. One convenient place for all the links and highlights from today's episode. Next week, I'm bringing a dealer onto the podcast. A dealer. A hope dealer, that is. Don't worry. Gloria Umana has dazzled stages across the world with her spoken word and creativity, and is now on a journey to bring hope to the world. She teaches us in this episode the importance of just looking somebody in the eye, how everyone has the ability to be creative, and all of her story and passion. It truly stems from a powerful story in her own life that she will retell. She will talk about the moment where she was getting ready to walk out the door to attempt to end her life, and the radical way in which God showed up. Man, this one was really, really powerful. So promise me you won't miss it. How do you not miss it? Subscribe or follow. It'll automatically show up on your feed next week, whether you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or my personal fave. I don't know if you know this, but all these episodes are on video on YouTube. Subscribe or follow, so that way automatically you'll see this really powerful episode with Gloria. And we can't wait to see you back next week for the Red Letter Disciple.